When we put solutions into the mix, how does that affect stoichiometry? Well, it really doesn't, because any of these things we can get to moles, right? With our solutions, we've now seen where if we have a volume and a concentration term, we can get moles. So it's just our same old stoichiometry. You go from any of these things into moles, or grams into moles, and then you do your stoichiometry, and you can convert back to whatever unit you're looking at. All right, so let's start here. We've got some barium sulfate that's formed from the reaction of sulfuric acid and barium hydroxide. Now, before we can do stoichiometry, what do we need first? All right, if you said a balanced equation, you are correct. So in order to do this, we need a balanced chemical equation. So we have our sulfuric acid. We have our barium hydroxide. We are forming our barium sulfate, which is a solid, and then water. Okay, and we're going to get 2 waters. All right, so we have 0.104 liters of sulfuric acid. We have 2 moles of sulfuric acid in every 1 liter of the sulfuric acid. For our balanced chemical equation, we have 1 mole of barium sulfate for every 1 mole of sulfuric acid. And then it wants grams of barium sulfate. So what do we need to do to go from moles to grams? We need the molar mass. Okay, and so we get 233.388 grams of barium sulfate per mole. Okay, and that will give us 48.5 grams of barium sulfate. Okay? All right, now here's another one. Now instead of this one figuring out how much of a product we can form, we're figuring out if we have a certain volume and concentration of hydrochloric acid, how much of our solid other reactant do we need? So it's still same old stoichiometry. This time I've given you the balanced equation. Now one thing to keep in mind, this is milliliters. So we need to do milliliters to liters, then liters to moles of hydrochloric acid, then moles of hydrochloric acid to moles of calcium carbonate, and then from moles of calcium carbonate to grams. Okay, so there's the progression. All right, so I'm not going to write the whole thing out. I've given you the roadmap. I want you to try it, and then I'll give you the final answer. All right, you should have gotten 15.9 grams of calcium carbonate. So, stoichiometry with solutions, it's really no different than any other stoichiometry. It's just instead of going from grams to moles, moles to moles, and then moles to grams, you're starting off with a volume and a concentration, using that to go to moles, and then doing your moles to moles, and then moles to grams. So there you go.